I mean, in the ramp, but I park a lot to see the cars. Probably very well. There's no way. We'll see.
Thank you, Linda and Philip. Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. This is a community where curious and compassionate seekers gather to explore spiritual, ethical, and social issues in an accepting and nurturing environment. Unitarian Universalism calls us to work toward equity, love, and justice in our congregations and in the world. My name is Elizabeth Barrett, and on behalf of the congregation, I would like to extend a special welcome to visitors. We are a welcoming congregation, so whoever you are and wherever you are on your life's journey, we celebrate your presence among us. We gather today out of the routines of our week to give pause, to take a deep breath, to listen to our hearts. We give thanks for this extraordinary blessing. Here may our minds stretch, our hearts open, and our spirits deepen. We are very glad that you are here. I invite you to join me now in a few moments of silence for contemplation, meditation, prayer, as we settle in and come fully into this time and place together. Please rise in all the ways we do for our in-gathering hymn, number 67.
We sing now together our song of thanksgiving, rejoicing in the goods which the ages have wrought, for life that enfolds us and helps and heals and holds us and leads beyond the goals which our forebears once sought. We sing of the freedoms which martyrs and heroes have won by their labor, their sorrow, their pain, the oppressed befriending, our ampler hopes defending. Their death becomes a triumph, they died not in vain. We sing of the prophets, the teachers, the dreamers, designers, creators, and workers, and seers, our own lives expanding, our gratitude commanding. Their deeds have made immortal their days and their years. We sing of community now in the making, in every far continent, region, and land, with those of all races, all times and names and places. We pledge ourselves in covenant firmly to stand.
Please remain standing for our opening words and as we light our chalice. The wheel of the year has turned again. Once more the Thanksgiving season has arrived. How shall we sing our song of gratitude now? For what shall we give thanks? For this moment, for friends near and far, for our breath, for love, courage, and clarity, for strength, delight, beauty, laughter, for the tables round which we gather, for the food we enjoy, seasoned with love and memory, for the sun and the moon and the stars, for the trees who have seen so much and still stand proud, stretching themselves to the sky, for the bright voices of children, for the wisdom of elders, for actions that bless the world, for hard work that makes a difference, for music and art and celebration, generosity, compassion, endurance, for joy and for hope. For all these things, may we give thanks as we join in worship together. And if you will join together in the words of affirmation as we light our chalice. We light our chalice as a symbol of gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In this sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. And if you will take a moment now to turn and greet those around you. We join together here to make room for all who enter. Into this time and place, we bring with us all the moments of our lives, all those things living within us that bring us joy, and all those things that break our hearts. We gather in the spirit of acceptance and support to share these moments with one another. So we invite anyone who would like to come to the front of the auditorium, light a candle using the microphone provided by Anne, our lay minister, share your sorrow or your joy with us. You may also wordlessly light a candle, and if you cannot come to the front for any reason, please raise your hand and Anne will bring the microphone to you.
I'm going to go first. I have exciting news. Thanksgiving evening, we have in our family a third-generation UU born, my niece in St. Louis, Hazel, named after my grandma, Hazel. So that was excitement. Come on.
I light a candle for Joyce Nygaard, who sings in the choir. She was in a car accident Friday night, and she's stable in Fond du Lac. I see several choir members here, and she has been singing with the choir all the way back through Ellsworth's time. Barb and I are leaving immediately after the service to go to Fond du Lac. She is the person who introduced us to FUS 15 years ago. But we think that her daughter reports that she's stable.
I had the privilege, of going to my Aunt Carol's funeral in Minneapolis on Saturday, and she is the last of my mother's generation to go. So we're now the older generation, and it feels kind of interesting. But I think Aunt Carol would have been very pleased with the funeral, and I think she probably planned every minute of it.
I like this for my sister Tony, who is undergoing open heart surgery tomorrow in New Jersey. Hopefully all will go well, and plan to visit her starting on Christmas Day for a week to help out and just relieve her family a little bit, and just keep her a good thought for her. Thank you.
We are really excited to say that we're going to be expanding our family by adopting from the foster care system.
And if you'll light one last candle for all those joys and sorrows that live in the fullness of our hearts. And if you will rise again in all the ways we do, our next hymn is number 355.
Thanks today for all the gifts of life, and first for peace that turns away the enmities of strife, and next the beauty of the earth, its flowers and lovely things. The spring's great miracle of birth, with sound of songs and wing. Then harvest of its teeming soil in orchard, croft, and field, but more the service and the toil of those who helped them yield. that shine like stars above to chart the world by night.
Please be seated. Our story today is called The Thanksgiving Door. It was Thanksgiving Day, and Ed and Ann were home alone. They were preparing their Thanksgiving dinner when something terrible happened. Ann burned the dinner. Ann felt awful that she had ruined Thanksgiving and decided to just pretend that it was any other day and go and do her ironing. But Ed was hungry. "Let's go see if that new restaurant down the street is open," he said. "Oh, all right," said Ann, "but it won't be the same." The door to the New World Cafe was open. "Hooray," said Ed. He quickly hung up their coats. Ann said, "Is this a Thanksgiving decoration? It looks like a pilgrim, but who's the dancing man with the beard?" "I'm not sure we should be here, Ed." "Nonsense," replied Ed. "The door was open." Many unhappy eyes peered through the kitchen door. "This is horrible," Leon whispered. "Who left the front door open? We can't have customers today. Our party will be ruined." "Let's get rid of them," Tatiana said. "I'll bang these pots together. The noise will scare them away." Grandmother had heard all that she could bear. She dropped her peeled potato into the pot and said, "Enough! In the old country, we bang pots at wolves, not hungry people. Today is Thanksgiving Day. Our family cooks a turkey as big as a doghouse, but we don't share? Bah!" She shook her head. "Grandmother is right," said Olga. "Go and get some chairs." Olga showed Ann and Ed to the best seats at the table. Aunt Sophia brought 2 more table settings. Grandmother said, "Happy Thanksgiving, welcome, welcome. We are glad that you are here." And that is how Ann and Ed found themselves as the guests of honor as this family celebrated their first Thanksgiving in the New World Cafe. After dinner, Ed asked for a check, but everyone pretended not to understand him. "No, no, no, we'll dance now. Please stay." Ann and Ed had never heard of a family dancing on Thanksgiving, but they were having such a good time, they just said yes. Ed followed the men upstairs to help move tables out of the way. Ann stayed with the women and even got to hold the new baby Sonia. Uncle Carl struck up the band and the young dancers got things started. Soon everyone joined in. Even Ed, who had never danced a lick in his life, kicked up his heels. Ann loved to dance. She knew all the steps. She taught everyone the conga. In no time at all, they were dancing in one huge conga line. It was really late when Ann and Ed said their goodbyes. Grandmother gave Ann a table decoration. Papa and Ed traded hats. Ann gave her telephone number to Sonia's mother in case she ever needed a babysitter. They all said, "Thank you for making this such a very special Thanksgiving." When it was time to lock up the cafe, Papa could not get the front door to close. When he looked down, he found a raw potato jammed under the door. "How did that thing get there?" he asked. In the old country, the Thanksgiving door is like the happy heart, opened up big and wide. Welcome to all who want to enter. The potato is good for that, Grandmother said. "You're right," was all Papa said. When they got home, Ann lit the candle from the cafe and made some tea. "What are you most thankful for on this wonderful Thanksgiving?" she said. Ed thought. Many things crossed his mind, but what was he most thankful for? "Well," he said, "I guess I would have to say, my dear, that I am most thankful that you burned our dinner." "Oh, Ed," she said, "me too." Thank you, Philip and Linda. In the spirit of this Thanksgiving season, I offer you this poem from Billy Collins. I pick an orange from a wicker basket and place it on the table to represent the sun. Then down at the other end, a blue and white marble becomes the earth. And nearby, I lay the little moon of an aspirin. I get a glass from a cabinet, open a bottle of wine, sit back in a ladder-back chair, a benevolent God presiding over a miniature creation myth. And I begin to sing a homemade canticle of thanks for this perfect little arrangement, for not making the earth too hot or cold, not making it spin too fast or slow, so that the grove of orange trees and the owl become possible, not to mention the rolling wave, the play of clouds, geese in flight, and the Z of lightning on a dark lake. Then I fill my glass again and give thanks for the trout, the oak, and the yellow feather, singing the room full of shadows as sun and earth and moon circle one another in their impeccable orbits, and I get more and more cockeyed with gratitude. It is the season to become more and more cockeyed with gratitude. It is the time for giving thanks, counting our blessings, realizing the immense abundance that surrounds us. It is the season of giving and caring, light and love made real. This is what I know in my head and my heart, what I feel in my bones this time of year every year. And yet, there are times when I look at what is happening in the world and in the lives of those we know and love, and I have to stop and ask, am I being foolish? Am I being naive? Is it crazy to even talk about gratitude and hope in such times? When we look around at our world, what right do we have to be more and more cockeyed with gratitude? Henry Nouwen, the late Catholic priest and author, knew this question well, and he answered it this way. Gratitude, he says, can be a discipline, a conscious choice. I can choose to be grateful even when my emotions and feelings are steep with hurt and resentment. It is amazing how many occasions present themselves in which I can choose gratitude instead of complaint. I can choose to be grateful when I am criticized, even when my heart responds in bitterness. I can choose to listen to the voices that forgive and to look at the faces and smile, even while I hear words of revenge or see grimaces of hatred. Now, I love his idea of gratitude as a discipline, as a spiritual practice, and others do as well. Galen Gingrich, who's the minister of All Souls UU in New York, believes that gratitude ought to be the defining spiritual discipline of Unitarian Universalism. He says that all religions have disciplines: Muslims, submission to Allah; Christians, love of God and neighbor; Jews, obedience to the commands of God. These disciplines answer that question: what do we do with all of this life? The beautiful and the horrible. How do we hold it all? He says that disciplines help us answer the question, how do I act with wonder and awe and thanksgiving? For UUs, our discipline can be gratitude. Why? Because the discipline of gratitude, if we were going to truly make it a practice for daily life, reminds us how utterly dependent we are on the people and the world around us for everything that matters. From this realization flows an ethic of gratitude that obligates us to create a future that justifies an increasing sense of gratitude for the human family as a whole. From the awe and the wonder at our interconnectedness comes our realization of our duty, both to one another and to all life. As the psychologist Charles Shelton so fittingly said, we learn that we have to give back to the goodness. This obligation takes our experience in the present and pushes us to find ways to work for a future in which all relationships are fair and positive and beautiful. Disciplines help us remember who we are as a people of faith. They are meant to call us back to our true selves, our better selves, connecting us with one another and all that supports life and gets us out of our own way and out into the world to create the world made fair with all her people one. Gratitude can be our discipline, our verb, what gets us up and moving. Once we see the wonder and the joy in our lives, we will be moved to share it. The singer-songwriter Carrie Newcomer recently wrote these words that she calls 3 gratitudes. Every night before I go to sleep, I say out loud 3 things that I'm grateful for. All the significant, insignificant, extraordinary, ordinary stuff of my life. It is a small practice and humble, and yet I find I sleep better holding what lightens and softens my life, ever so briefly, at the end of the day. Sunlight and blueberries, good dogs and wool socks, a fine rain, a good friend, fresh basil, wild phlox, my father's good health, my daughter's new job, the song that always makes me cry, always at the same part, no matter how many times I hear it. Finding decent coffee at the airport, and your quiet breathing, the stories you told me, the frost patterns on the windows, English horns and banjos, wood thrush and June bugs, the smooth, glassy calm of the morning pond, an old coat, a new poem, my library card, and that car that keeps on running despite all the miles. And after 3 things, more often than not, I get on a roll and I just keep on going. I keep naming and listing until I lie grinning, blankets pulled up to my chin, awash with wonder at the sweetness of it all. So in the coming days, maybe you'll pause for a moment before meals to stop and say a simple thank you for all the people you love, for all the world we enjoy, for all those blessings. Maybe you'll lie in bed and think of 3 things and get on a roll. Gratitude can be the thing that saves us from isolation, disconnection, and despair, reminds us who we are and what we are called to do, that brings us hope, pushes us to open that Thanksgiving door in our own life for all that we love and all that we believe and all that we are blessed to share. May we be so moved, and may we today and always find ourselves more and more cockeyed with gratitude. And I now invite you into the giving and receiving of our offering. Our outreach offering recipient is the River Food Pantry. You can find out more about their good work in your order of service, and we thank you for your generosity. And we now invite you into a time of breaking bread together, a Thanksgiving communion. Seeds scattered on fertile ground are warmed by the sun and fed by the soil. They sprout and they grow, producing great fields of grain. The grain is harvested and ground into flour and shipped across the nation, mixed with simple ingredients, baked to make bread. The bread is broken in the sacred space of this time together and shared in this community of love. The breaking of bread is an ancient ritual of community and memory, celebrated in many different traditions in many different ways. Together, as we bask in the warmth of the celebration of Thanksgiving, we break bread together to celebrate the abundance of the harvest, the hard work of all who make our lives possible, and the community that gathers here together. These loaves were baked with love, abundant love that multiplies all that is around it. We offer you this bread of community. As you come forward, we'll give you a piece of bread from the basket. Leslie and I will have regular bread in the middle. Elizabeth will have gluten-free, dairy-free over here to the side. As you take the piece of bread, you take in the love of this community. As you eat the bread, bring to mind those things and those people for which you are thankful for at this time of year. And we offer you now this bread of hope and love and community. And before our closing hymn, let me say a quick thank you to all the people who helped our service today. David Bryles, Ann Smiley, Claire Box, John McGevna, Jamie Anir Fair, Biss Nitschke, Tom Dolmage, Pamela McMullen, Michael Lossy, Marty Hollis, John Powell, and our beautiful flowers, our poinsettias from Sally Builder and Co. Williams. Thank you, one and all. And if you will rise now in all the ways we do, our closing hymn is number 128.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, so services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
What can we do before the seeming indifference of the universe? We can remind ourselves of the many graces of the world, the steadiness of the churning earth beneath our feet, the happy meeting of new friends when we least expect them, the kindness of strangers when we are low, the love of those who stay with us in all seasons. We live in the grace of the world. May we be grateful. We extinguish our chalice, but not the light of love, the warmth of community, or the fire of justice. Those live within us until we meet again. Blessed be, go in peace, and please be seated for the postlude.